The world is holding its breath right now. And believe it or not, it's not because of some new social media trend or a celebrity breakup. The world is holding its breath right now. And believe it or not, it's not because of some new social media trend or a celebrity breakup. A few weeks ago, the US military essentially treated Venezuela like a high-stakes Uber pool and picked up Maduro. Ever since, the old geopolitical rulebook has been completely tossed out the window. Suddenly, all eyes are on the Persian Gulf, where the atmosphere isn't just tense, it's electric, and it feels like we're on a countdown to something big. US military assets are being strategically moved, pulling back just beyond the reach of Iranian missiles. Diplomatic channels are going silent, one by one. This isn't just heightened tensions anymore. This feels like the quiet before a storm. A deliberate, calculated preparation for a conflict that could reshape the entire Middle East. So, what exactly is the game plan here? Well, strap in, because we're about to break down the good, the bad, and the truly ugly scenarios that could unfold. Let's start with the good scenario. At least from the perspective of the planners in Washington, D.C., for the average person in Iran, life has been a slow-motion catastrophe for years. The economy is in shambles. Inflation is so out of control that the national currency, the rial, has lost almost all its value. We've all seen the powerful images from the woman, life, freedom movement. It's not just a protest. It's a clear sign that the gap between the Iranian people and the ruling elite, especially the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, has become a vast, uncrossable ocean. The argument coming from the US is this: a swift, surgical military strike isn't just about taking out potential nuclear facilities. It's about breaking the spine of the oppressive security forces. The idea is that by neutralizing the IRGC's ability to crack down on dissent, the US would be giving the Iranian people the critical opening they need to finally rise up and reclaim their own country. It's a powerful narrative, a pitch for freedom and self-determination. However, as history has repeatedly shown us, freedom delivered by a Tomahawk missile often comes with a whole lot of fine print and unintended consequences. It's a high-risk, high-reward strategy that assumes the best-case outcome in a region known for defying expectations. Now, let's pivot to the bad scenario. And in this part of the world, bad is a four-letter word, spelled OIL. The US strategy seems to be a direct sequel to the playbook they just ran in Venezuela. By ramping up domestic oil production and securing additional reserves from South America, the US believes it has created enough of a buffer, a cushion, to absorb the shock of a potential Iranian oil shutdown. They think they can weather the storm. But here's the problem with that logic. Iran is not a financially broken Caribbean nation. Iran is the gatekeeper, the doorman to the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow waterway is the jugular vein of the global economy. Roughly 1/5 of the entire world's oil supply passes through that tiny gap every single day. If Iran feels cornered, if they decide that if we can't sell our oil, then nobody can, and they shut down the strait, the ripple effects would be catastrophic. Forget about political debates. We're talking about a direct hit to your wallet. Your daily commute could suddenly cost more than a round-trip flight to Europe. It wouldn't just be an energy crisis. It would be a full-blown global economic heart attack. The jokes about gas prices write themselves, until you're standing at the pump and the numbers just keep spinning. The global supply chain, which is already fragile, would shatter. Inflation would skyrocket everywhere, and we could be plunged into a worldwide recession almost overnight. The US is kind of acting like that one friend who tries to fix your messy breakup by setting your ex's house on fire. Sure, it's an effective way to end a relationship, but now everyone's homeless. The entire neighborhood is in flames, and the problem is 1,000 times worse. This brings us to an even more terrifying possibility. If Iran decides to retaliate, not just by closing the strait, but by following through on its threats to strike regional refineries in places like Saudi Arabia or the UAE, the situation escalates exponentially. We wouldn't just be looking at a local skirmish. We'd be witnessing the glittering Dubai dream turn into a Dubai desert almost overnight. The economic and political fallout from that would be immeasurable, destabilizing the entire region for a generation. And that finally brings us to the ugly. This is the part of the story that often gets lost, buried under the strategic maps, the troop movement graphics, and the political analysis. This is the human cost. War is never as clean, as precise, or as surgical as the PowerPoint presentations in military briefing rooms claim it will be. There's always collateral damage. If the US decides to hit targets in dense urban centers to try and dismantle the IRGC's command and control network, they run a massive risk. They could end up killing the very same protesters, the very same civilians they claim they are trying to liberate. The line between liberator and aggressor becomes terrifyingly thin, but perhaps the ugliest scenario of all is the power vacuum. What happens the day after? If the current regime in Iran collapses suddenly, without a clear, organized, and credible successor ready to take its place, Iran doesn't just magically transform into a stable democracy. It risks becoming a 1,600-mile-wide version of Libya. Fractured, chaotic, failed state torn apart by warlords, militias, and extremist groups, all fighting for control. Now, imagine that chaotic, failed state, but sitting on top of a partially developed nuclear program. Imagine it controlling the world's most important shipping lane. That is the ultimate ugly scenario. It's a nightmare that would make the current tensions look like a walk in the park. It's a recipe for endless conflict, a refugee crisis of unimaginable scale, and a permanent threat to global security. So, this is where we stand. On one side, the United States is making a massive gamble. They are betting that the Iranian regime is a fragile house of cards, rotten from the inside, and just waiting for a stiff breeze to knock it all down. On the other side, Iran is betting that it can make the cost of that breeze so incredibly high, so painful, that the American public and the world at large won't be willing to pay the price. Will this high-stakes confrontation lead to a new Middle East, as some hope? Or will it just lead to a very old, very scorched one? The answer remains to be seen, but one thing is for sure. The decisions made in the coming days and weeks will echo for decades. And hey, Let's end on a slightly dark, humorous note. If the global economy does collapse and the internet goes down, at least you won't have to worry about your credit card debt anymore. Because the bank that holds it probably won't exist. Silver linings, right? Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown insightful, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Stay informed and stay safe.